Hello, how are we getting on? Hope you're all well. Welcome to another whiskey review with me, Marty Macaulay. Irish whiskey review, and tonight we are going to be reviewing an Irish whiskey. Yeah. Now, anyone who's watched the show that I do with my mate Justin on a Saturday night will probably know what's coming. My views on Proper 12. Well, we'll let the review pan out and we'll see where we go. And do please comment on the bottom of this and let me know if you feel the same way or don't. Feel free. Everybody's got their opinion, and that's the joy of this kind of thing. I just say my opinion. If you don't agree with me, fine. It's honestly, it doesn't offend me in the slightest. There's loads of people turn around and go, he talks a load of crap. Fine, absolutely. I know I talk a lot of crap at times, so I'm not offended in any way, shape, or form. So feel free to just say it. Yeah, Proper 12. This is heading towards being the second best-selling Irish whiskey in the world after Jameson. There is Jameson and pretty much everything else. This is going to... This is almost laughable. The second best-selling Irish whiskey. If you've been living in a cave and don't know that, I'm going to take this because there's actually dust sitting on this bottle. Yeah. This is the product of one Conor McGregor, who is an MMA fighter slash, I was going to say sometime, but it was only one time boxer. He fought Floyd Mayweather in what was, I mean, it was basically like Thunder Lips versus Rocky in the film. Where Hulk Hogan and Rocky 3 fights Sylvester Stallone. Rocky. It's just a farce. It was an absolute joke of a fight. Floyd Mayweather could have stopped the fight in 30 seconds. And it's not because Conor McGregor's a bad fighter. He's not. Obviously, he's not. He's a fantastic fighter. But it's like someone who plays soccer taking up basketball. They're kind of similar, but they're not actually the same thing. And there's this idea that fighters, if Floyd Mayweather jumped into the octagon with Conor McGregor, he would get slaughtered, and probably so, because there's a different skill set. And it was kind of manufactured, and I'm a boxing fan. I've been a boxing fan since I was very, very small. And the way recently there's these sort of pantomime fights. I mean, someone's going to get badly hurt at some point. And the McGregor-Mayweather fight was billed as the biggest fight in history, which kind of tells you where people think boxing is these days. Sometimes I think people forget that people do get injured really, really, really seriously and badly at these things. And, yeah. Anyway, I digress. So Conor McGregor is an MMA fighter with lots of success. Last year he was the highest paid sportsman in the world because he sold this. A very strange sort of tie-up. He did this with a company, founded the brand, and then sold it, but seems to still be the brand ambassador for it or something. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not privy to the contract, so I don't know. But he jumped on board with Irish whiskey. It is to be congratulated, the fact that he promoted Irish whiskey in demographics that probably never would have give it a second glance. The sort of styling of what he had done, and the fact that he was all full of swagger and bravado, and this was his drink. For years and years and years, Irish whiskey has tried to move away from that drunken fighting Irishman brand. And then lo and behold, out comes a guy who I rather suspect doesn't drink an awful lot of whiskey. I mean, he's a top class athlete, so I don't think he probably drinks much alcohol. It's not really conducive to the sport he does. Here they come with this. He's sitting there and I'm going to knock his pan in, I'm going to do this, and he's pouring out whiskey in, and you know it's not whiskey, he's in training. And if you're drinking whiskey while you're training for a professional fight, you're not taking it all that seriously. So I doubt if it's actually whiskey that's in the bottle. So it's all this sort of charade and smoke and mirrors. Excuse me, I just got a wee thing in my eye. Oops. Anyway, and it's that kind of drunken fighting Irishman that the whole Irish whiskey category has tried to move away with. For this brand, it's actually worked quite well and sells quite well, and it appeals to the sort of young male demographic. I think that's probably who it is. I stand to be corrected. If anyone knows the figures better than me, I'm quite happy to be educated on schooled, but I think I'm not far wrong. Now, it's a blend, triple distilled blend, a smooth blend, again, with hints of vanilla, honey, and toasted wood. Makes a nice noise when you take it off. I don't think it's natural coloured. I think there's probably a drop of colour. It doesn't say, but I can probably imagine it is. Now, why is it called Proper 12? We have a problem with this. When you put numbers onto bottles, people automatically think it's an age statement. And this, I don't think this really should be allowed. I don't think it's the biggest crime in the world, but if you turn around and put an age on a whiskey bottle, people automatically assume that it's an age statement. It's 12-year-old whiskey. It's not 12-year-old whiskey. You don't have to be much of a connoisseur to figure out it's not that old at all. The reason it's called Proper 12, he says on it, on the bottle, paying tribute to where it all began for me, Dublin 12, our master distiller and I set out with one goal in mind, to craft a proper Irish whiskey that is true to Ireland. We are honoured to share this smooth and balanced spirit. A fine blend of golden grain and full flavoured malted barley. Okay. Triple distilled and aged a minimum of 3 years in bourbon barrels. Proper number 12 offers hints of vanilla, honey-like sweetness, toasted wood. A proper salute to you all. Distilled, aged and bottled in Ireland. Yeah. Now, this is bought in. It is, we are led to believe, Bushmills. It's Proximo is the parent company now. Jose Cuervo, Proximo, whatever way you want to put it, are the owners of Bushmills. And this is what they've put together. Now, one of the joys of whiskey is this sense of place. That's why lots of the brands are named of where they are from. You know, in Scotland you have lots of the distilleries are named for where they are, or for the region or the area. Speyside, you know, has its own region, and Islay has its own region. Ireland has its own region. Japan has its own region. Kentucky bourbon, Tennessee whiskies. You know, this sense of place. If you ever go to Crumlin in Dublin, it's probably not somewhere. I don't mean disrespect to the good people of Crumlin in Dublin, but it's not the Loire Valley. You know, it's not the Douro Valley in Portugal. No. And the reason it's called Proper 12 is because Conor McGregor's nickname is the Notorious. So he wanted Notorious whiskey. But there's when he went to register it, or when Proximo or whoever it was doing the registering at the time, they discovered that there's already a drink company has it registered. So he couldn't have it. So it became Proper 12. So out it came. So there's that. There's the age statement thing. Don't particularly like that. don't particularly think that Crumlin in Dublin is somewhere that you really want to say, oh, this was aged in Crumlin in Dublin. Again, we're not trying to disparage people from there, but as I say, it doesn't have the romance of a Glen in Scotland, you know. The label, well, the label is Jack Daniels esque, you know. It kind of has that look to it a little bit. You see what I mean? You know, a little different font, but it's a little homage to Jack Daniels. Nothing wrong with that. Jack Daniels label is A1. So the fact that you've copied it a little bit isn't it's not the worst thing in the world, but again, it's another thing that we're taking away from. So, what's it like? Swishy, swishy, swish. On the nose, it's awful. I don't know, what, it smells of cheap. It doesn't have any, there's no complexity, it's grainy on the nose, it's floral, it's quite harsh, it has elements of some sort of cleaner on the nose. You could say it has as some sort of toasted wood. That's about as good as it would get. It smells like something you would kindle a fire with, and it has a slight citrusy note. But again, it's kind of like a cleaner of something. Now 40% ABV, so it's basically the bare minimum. Now Irish whiskey has to be matured for 3 years. We know that. I'm going to say it's so young that it probably didn't get blown out the birthday candles on the third birthday cake before it was stuck in a bottle. I do stand to be correct on that, because in the States it doesn't have an age statement on the bottle, and by law in America you have to have an age statement if it's younger than 4 years. But it's young, grainy, cheap on the nose. Colour wise, yeah, it's good. Yeah, it look. I'm not going to say what it looks like. All right. Oh, that's awful. It's just not good. It has a sort of lemon rind note to it. It's not nice. There's elements of bourbon, cask, sweetness, but there's no real roundness to it. They've stuck the word smooth there, but the word smooth is just a load of pish. It's a load of absolute nonsense. It means nothing. It means, the problem with the word smooth is it means so many different things to other people. So people just stick it on. Oh, Irish whiskey's smooth. Boom, put it on there. It doesn't mean anything. That's grainy. It's young. It's harsh with very little flavour. It does have an aftertaste, but there's no development or anything to it. And the fact that this is going to be the second best selling Irish whiskey, really, can you not do better than this? And I know that people are trying this, and if people are trying Irish whiskey, good on them. I don't like doing reviews and putting the book into products, because I know how much work goes into lots of them, and what a lot of people do is fabulous stuff. But I don't get the sense that any real work has went into this. it based solely on Conor McGregor running about saying I'm the hard drinking, hard living, hard fighting man, and that's kind of where the appeal is, man. There's not a huge amount of thought that's went into the whiskey. There's the branding of it. They had to come up with new branding because the original wasn't feasible. They've sort of copied, you know, and it doesn't taste good. It's just not great. Now, some people say to me, "Well, you've drunk a lot of it." I've given lots of this away to let other people try. I had a girl came to the house probably about a month ago, 6 weeks ago. We were doing a bit of work, and she came up to the house, and she knows her whiskey. This girl knows her whiskey, and she very definitely knows what she likes. And she says, "Oh, I've never tried that." And I says, "Well, I'll pour you a very healthy measure that you can take home." She was driving, so obviously she couldn't drink. And I give her a reasonably good sample of it. And she took it home. And later on that evening, she texted me to say, "By fuck, that is awful." Yes, it is. Yes, I agree. Well, last week, if it had been good, you wouldn't have got as big a sample. But yeah, and it's hard. I assume people are using this in a mixer. They're putting this in and sticking Coke or ginger ale or whatever it is the one they put in over the top of this. More good on them. If that's what you're drinking, good for you guys. It's entirely up to you. But don't be confusing this with decent Irish whiskey, proper, well crafted, well manufactured, lots of passion and intelligence and so on has went into lots of other product. It hasn't went into this. Bushmills. I would assume Bushmills are quite happy with the revenue that's coming off it, but they don't associate themselves with it too much. And the fact what Bushmills can produce and what's in this bottle are poles apart. Poles apart. If I have to give this a mark, it's not expensive. Some money goes to charity. It will still get you drunk if you want to have a drink. And let's be honest, it's all very well being, "Oh, I'm a connoisseur, or I do this and that. Oh, I love single malts and all aged product." Fine. Everybody likes getting drunk every once in a while. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't. What's the point of having a whiskey? It makes you feel good. So this will get you drunk. There's absolutely no doubt about that. So for that redeeming factor, for the fact that there's money donated from charity from the sale of every cask of this or every box of this sold, I think it's $5 goes to first responder charities. I think that's what it is. Go and check it out. So for that, and for the fact that it's wakening people up to the fact that Irish whiskey's there. It's certainly not going to get any marks for the taste because it's horrid. But I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 10, and I'm being kind of generous at that, if I'm honest. The extra half mark is in because I'm in a kind of good mood. I had a nice day today. But if you're going to spend your money on whiskey, if you set a bottle of that, if you set 1,000 bottles of that down against one bottle of Black Bush, and I had to pick a lifetime supply of proper 12 for free or a bottle of Black Bush, I'll take the bottle of Black Bush every day of the week and twice on a Sunday if they would give it to me, because they're just not comparable. I mean, they're just a different animal altogether. So yeah, proper 12. Yeah, it's yeah. On that note, I shall bid you farewell. I'll just set that over there. I think I'll go and get a good whiskey. I think I'll go and get something that I actually quite like, and cleanse my palate with something pleasant. So, bid you farewell. Join me and Justin every Saturday night at 10 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, and for fun and laughter and me poking fun at Justin, which is always a bit of a pleasure. So yeah, See you then, and take care. Bye bye.